Hello, Tim. How
Can
are
you hear me?
I can hear you, I can see you, and you look handsome today. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. I just thought about a check, Morten. How are you?
I am so good. I am so fortunate that I get so much knowledge in my ears these days that I sleep very well when I go to bed.
You look remarkably relaxed. And
I can tell you that I don't feel so relaxed moments before 11 because both yesterday and today it was like the webinar platform we're using goes also streaming directly to YouTube, and when I click broadcast, it's just like, both today and yesterday, it was like YouTube said, no, not today.
Oh, no.
And it was just like, God, come on. And then I get stressful, I'll tell you. But so far, we have got luck. So it works until now. Yeah.
Well, so, I'm cool doing whatever you like, really. I was just a bit concerned. I'm sorry, for some reason, I just couldn't get logged in. I have no idea what that was, but I'm here. I mean, if you want me to quickly just share screen so you can see whether the presentation shares correctly, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, we are live right now. So right now we're talking to the audience. So
okay, well, hello, audience.
Yeah. I was
I'm glad we didn't swear.
Yeah, well, swearing is okay. We are in the Western world, right?
Yeah.
No, before we go to the presentation, I would like to just introduce you because you are obviously Tim Cox and you are obviously from Vpress. And to be honest, we got to know each other a couple of weeks ago, or maybe just a week ago, actually. And I have checked up a little bit on your website. I also checked up on you because obviously you are still like reasonably new in your role as CEO for Vpress, right?
Been doing this now as MD, Managing Director, for around 8 years in this role.
So the latest breaking news I got from the print media in the UK, that was like old news, basically.
Probably, yeah. And I've been involved in web to print for probably in excess of 20 years.
Yeah, because the press release I saw was actually saying that Tim Cox have been appointed as MD for Vpress, and I was like, it seemed that everybody knew that you have like a history in that industry,
yeah,
right? So so you can't run from your.
No, unfortunately not. I should know better, really. No, I've been involved in web to print since its concept many years ago. When I was involved in a project for Ford, who needed to be able to automate the procurement of business cards online, and at the time it was all dial-up, so you can imagine how hard it was. But and it was dealing with very small files. I worked within a company I had for probably the best part of a decade doing just that. Promoted it out to printers, print managers, and some corporates. But it was in the early days, and it was a very difficult technology to get people to adopt. So I exited a company I was part of after about a decade. It was time to move on, and after a bit of time consulting within the industry and putting time and money into some things outside of the industry, I did some work with Vpress. They'd always been we'd always had a friendly relationship, even though they were competitors, and their technology, or our technology, kicked off around about the same time as I entered the market so they were 2001. And after a short period working with them, just opening up new opportunities and reviewing other things in the company, we all made a decision that it would be good to tie in together, and we did. And naively, or through a moment of inspiration, they decided that I should take the tiller and take up the position of managing director, and that was probably about 8 years ago. So perhaps the press release lost its launch date, but since then we've been working in not only increasing the product's tool set and its capabilities, but also working on behalf of our customers. We very much, as a company, sit very much in the background. We have, 4,500 plus brands globally using the product. And I would imagine that very few of them know that it's our technology.
How sad is
in a
that?
very white label environment, which serves our customers very well. So much of our responsibility as a business is to help our customers win and secure existing business that they are aiming for.
It's
sorry to correct on that one.
It reminds me a little because it reminds me a little bit because I had a conversation with a gentleman from Germany, Frank de Jong from Adfos, a couple of weeks ago, and as we spoke about that, Adfos is like a drying technology that you build into machines, so you don't really. I mean, maybe they have a sticker, I don't know, but it must sometimes be annoying to have you have the first class technology, you have the best in class, and then it's like put in somewhere where people don't know it, right?
Yeah, it's kind of best kept secret. I mean, we have been for ages. I mean, it's always difficult to guess because we're not always in control of what our customers are doing with our product. But we probably have 1,800 plus printers using our product to receive work globally, and it's in every country in the world. So, trying to control that network or even know where it is very difficult. So we receive regularly a lot of calls in from clients that are receiving work from our platform, and they'll often turn around and say, can you tell me a bit more about it? I've just received the work from this customer in Asia Pacific or in America or wherever it might be. And so yeah, we I guess we're a bit of a well-kept secret, but as a technology, we're involved in pretty much every kind of online procurement you could imagine, whether it's a printer, large or small, a print manager, large or small, or a brand or an agency serving it. But ultimately, our product is being used to secure and make available, either variably or not, brand collateral marketing.
That sounds great. And what are you talking about today? I have written it down, but I can't remember right now. So do you tell me?
Agenda.
Yeah, tell me.
Just a generic overview. I mean, obviously a quick intro to ourselves, but a generic overview of, I guess, the web to print market as we sit now. And obviously that market has a very predictable explanation. And then with everything to do with this lovely pandemic that we're all involved in, things are starting to shift. And I think that it's less about web to print, even though the tone and the term relating to this particular presentation surrounds web to print. I think it's a bit of a misleading phrase, because it's not web to print, it's web to whatever you want. And I think that, now we've got printers that are manufacturers of personal protection equipment, face masks, garments, even manufacturing chemicals that will, provide antibacterial gels to people in a train station. So, I think we're all in an unprecedented time. We all know that, but I think that printers are going through an even bigger change, because printers historically have always been the go-to guys and girls, and I think that's because many people know that they want to do something, or they know what they want to do, but they've got no idea how to do it. And I think that printers are another well-kept secret in their ability to deliver back ridiculously complex output based upon a very vague remit. Yeah,
I totally agree.
Which often changes as well.
So let's see your session and hear your session, and then afterwards let's see if there's some questions. Otherwise I probably have some questions, because I'm a curious person. So
I'll wake you afterwards if you like. I'll wake you up afterwards if you like. If you're still...
I don't think that is necessary. Are you comfortable how you do this? So you have the share screen button?
Yeah, I've got the share. I mean, if you like, I can get that done now.
Let's see how it works.
Okay. So let's just get this playing. So I think the main thing was that when talking to Morten, it was important that we just kind of outlined web to print, and I think that the subject of web to print is a great subject to discuss, but I think the phrase just doesn't really do it any justice now in 2020, because there's obviously still an enormous amount of print being produced via these online tools, but it has shifted and changed massively. So if I quickly move forward, one of the observations that we tend to have, and we run very similar to what Morten's doing today, we when everyone started to lock down as we went into the pandemic, we opened up a networking event, which we called The Crown, which is basically a virtual pub, like a UK bar. And a lot of the conversations that have gone on there in this open forum have revealed that the diversification that's kicking out now has moved way beyond anything anyone could have anticipated. So just to quickly move on. So my name's Tim Cox. I'm the managing director of Vpress, as we discussed earlier on. And just to give you a quick overview, Vpress are an 18-year-old company, technology company that now look after on our platform, which is called Corprint, in excess of 4.5, nearly 5,000 brands globally. And they vary from large drinks brand in Asia Pacific to soft drinks and retail across many areas of the globe, airline companies, financial institutes, pharmaceutical companies, just a massive mixed array. Those companies are accessing the system in multiple languages. Our product basically picks up the browser setting of the device that you're accessing the system in, and will revert to that language. So whether you're in one of the usual languages expected across Europe, some Middle Eastern languages, or even Far Eastern languages, we cater for it, and the system presents itself back out to that person in its native setting. The company is expansive. A lot of people think that web to print has to live within the world of large corporates, even though a lot of times in these types of presentations, the large corporates are cited. Normally, a lot of our customers are also looking after small companies, and they could be a mixture of things from a small florist shop or a garden centre, maybe a garage forecourt. So then they don't have to be large organisations. And as I said, on an international level, we've got companies that have 300,000 plus outlets globally, accessing the system day in, day out to order everything from business cards and stationery to point of sale and quite complex print work for marketing. We have one product. The product is called Corprint. The Corprint is a scalable cloud-based architecture or software as a service. It's white labeled, so no one ever knows what is sitting beneath their ordering process, and a lot of the time it's ours. But it pretty much covers all the features that you'll see if you look into the world of web to print, and what our peers and competitors provide in terms of functionality, the ability to scale and change the look and feel. So effectively, we can pretty much do everything. And I think to do justice to this type of technology now would be ridiculous because of the time that I now don't have because of the screw up on the setting of the presentation. Obviously, web to print seems to be the phrase of the moment, but realistically, if you look across Europe, it's often referred to as online printing. So really, the phrase web to print needs to be expanded, and by ourselves and other companies, it has, based upon the sector we're aiming at. I guess ultimately, where this product really lives and is driven from are from brands. I don't think that printers would necessarily take these types of technologies on if the brands didn't insist on having an online feature or function that allows them to access it. So this web to anything, anywhere, anytime is realistically a more generic but probably apt phrase. We've seen over the period of COVID and the lockdowns that we've had across the globe, outside of the sadness that it brings and the worry and concerns that we all suffer, both personally and in business, we're seeing an enormous amount of printers now diversifying to point of sale. So we're seeing a lot of wide format printing engines, UV printing engines, fabric, are now coming in to cater for the requirement to provide various types of signage, indoor, outdoor, floor and hanging. We've seen an enormous impact upon certain substrates and materials now not being available, which has then driven print companies to innovate in the types of materials that they're using so that they can cater for it. And the process is involved as well. These are just two things that we were involved in. Both are giving facilities. So the Keep Calm and Communicate was an agency that we worked closely with, one of our customers, who was concerned about the confusion surrounding the messaging that was going out there, surrounding the ever-changing COVID-19 warnings. So this is all World Health Organization verified documentation. It's available for free download from that website to anybody. And the agency that runs the product, which is all listed on the website, can also redress all of this collateral and this livery to suit the client that might need it. So if there's a printer out there across Europe or wherever that may need to take advantage of this, but doesn't have the facility themselves internally to do it, they can get in touch and this can be built. The second one was a printer that working closely with Purup came up with it, with ESCO, old name, with ESCO regarding a two-piece cut vinyl that was simple, disposable, inexpensive and quick to make, one every 25 seconds. We helped him to personalize them with memorial messages relating to perhaps someone that wanted to donate a mask in memory of someone, or just to identify that the mask belonged to Dr. X or Nurse Y. These are being given away for free, but as part of the system, you can go on and you can donate to charity. A very giving, very collaborative approach. So within this diversification, we've seen a lot of coming together of technologies that serve print that weren't necessarily partners prior to, in order to deliver these types of projects. And I'm seeing this change all the time. So, please, as a printer, if you're watching this, it's probably worth considering some level of diversification now, because it won't change. It's going to continue. Types of organizations that we see use it, there are the usual suspects, the large corporates that you would expect, but things are now moving. And when we lay down a list of the kind of organizations that use this technology, it's worth mentioning that they aren't always large organizations. These are small companies that are stretched in terms of manpower. So you might have a small organization, maybe a very small charity or a membership organization, that you have an individual who is managing marketing in amongst many other features and functions within their particular daily role. So putting a web to print system in for these kind of organizations does help massively to reduce time and energy on their part and make them more efficient, but also allows you to offer a lot more services to them as a printer. I won't go through the list. I think you can see that, and I can go into details with each one of these if needs be. We have companies in amongst that 4,500 plus that sit in every one of these brackets, and they are all very diverse. Another emergence we're seeing now are providers of B2B services historically among the print sector are now moving, as the guys from Chile mentioned earlier on, to cater for B2C requirements. So they're now taking things that were traditionally dealt with within their print sector customers, and they're now making them available through, say, WordPress websites and the like. Now, as a technology, we can allow customers that have historically used our product on a B2B level to cater for B2C through either an API link, which is an application programming interface, which effectively means our architecture and our engine can be utilized within a third-party website. We can use things like WooCommerce links into WordPress websites. So again, we can personalize elements that might have been static or stock items within an existing or a to-be-built website. And we can now make them variable using our engine via a WooCommerce link. We also have a product which we call Modal, which means that we are truly impartial as to what the web interface is, whether it's Drupal, whether it's Joomla, whether it's Amazon, Etsy, any of these online sites. If they're selling a product that they then need to start making personalized, we can actually put our engine into that through a Modal link, which basically won't interrupt with that shopping experience in, say, a Shopify type environment, but it makes a very rapid and fulfilled variable experience. What it can look like, as I mentioned, pretty much anything you want. I mean, there's a very, very small selection there. Every client we deal with has a different requirement. So, it's a very, very moot point to discuss how our product should look. What we've done instead is we've made it available to everybody in the style and the manner that they require it. The driver we find, though, which is common, is what the brands expect. And what the brands expect, they insist upon the agency or they insist upon the printer, whoever or however complex that supply chain is. And they're looking for it to control their brand in a more structured manner. They are fed up with dealing with last-minute requests that they can't fulfill from internal staff. They want to have access to real-time management information. They want to be able to control their sub-supply. They want to switch between suppliers. They want to save time and energy. They're now very aware that all of these things can be given, but they can do it in a way that they control their brand, so that someone who wants to abuse the brand is no longer allowed to. So I think that the main thing is that brands have now realized that they no longer have to tolerate the fact that they've spent hundreds of thousands of euros, dollars, pounds building a brand and a complete portfolio to support it for various campaigns, only to find out someone's abusing it. So web to print allows them to control that, but make it available to anyone at any time. I think one of the other things that needs to happen, and my father was a printer, so I have empathy, but I think that printers have notoriously been very bad in the past at marketing themselves. And I think that they've been very reluctant to accept that print is something that can be commoditized and can be available online. And I think that now's the time that it's not a case of it would be a nice to have within their business to offer web to print. It's now a necessity. It's now an expectation. And to avoid having to retrospectively react to a potential loss of business or a risk of losing business, it's now time to start planning. So I think that there's plenty of information out there. There's plenty of education out there. If you look at what Morten's doing with INKISH and the team here in opening up discussion and environments that people can come and learn. As I said, we run the Crown Pub. It's every Tuesday and every Thursday at 3:30 British summertime, so we're an hour behind. There's open discussion, there's learning forums, there's open networking. It's all there. I guess the most important commodity that needs to be devoted to take advantage of these things is time. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time saying that they're too busy, when realistically taking some time out and stopping to actually relearn, to sharpen the proverbial axe, is exactly what's required. It will allow them to then anticipate the requirements of their clients, plan around that, and start acting on a more preemptive basis rather than a reactionary basis, which I'm finding is now something that our customers are very aware their clients are now wanting. They're finding that the brands are very receptive to suggestion, idea, partnership, and collaboration on things, because they're in the same situation with the pandemic now and how it's affected their business. I think a constant review of the manual processes that you've tolerated over the years is also something that web to print can really help out with. We've always found at Vpress we're a conduit or a middleman. We constantly integrate into things like SAP, Salesforce, Coupa, Oracle, the big systems that our clients use to run their businesses. But which is great for the printer and the print manager, because it helps lock those brands in and it helps for a more fluid interaction. But what it also does is it allows you to also take that information, automate it, and drive it backwards into your management information, into your production workflow. Or if you don't have a production workflow, literally send it straight into a particular hot folder structure to allow a more fluid, less manual process in actually handling these jobs through your business, which obviously gives you time, it reduces error, but more importantly, it will bring back profit on the grey costs that you may as a printer be ignoring currently. And these are things that can be discussed. There are only two reasons why integration can't take place nowadays. It's either that there is an agenda by one manufacturer to not allow another one to link, or it could be that the technology that is looking to be linked to is possibly a little too old to deal with a web-based integration. But we've done integrations on a global level, on a very complex level, with many, many manufacturers and many organizations. And we've always taken an open approach, regardless of whether you're dealing with digital print, litho, wide format, embroidery, screen printing, it doesn't matter, we can link out. So look at those processes, look at where the time's being taken, or possibly if you're coming back to a world where there are less staff and the same amount of work, it might be that you need to do it for the simple reason that you don't have the same manpower. Keep improving your knowledge, learn about marketing, understand how that works. That will not only allow you to work better within these types of environments and these products, but it will allow you to start working with clients on better ideas for new products that they could run off of a web to print system. And I think that now has gone the time for printers to continue using print-based jargon. It's not understood. Very rarely do people ask what the product was that, what the print engine was that printed the product. It's irrelevant. So I think that the main thing is just try and take a marketing, more preemptive approach with it. And I think with web to print, what we're finding now is clients are they're not actually thinking, shall we do this? They're actually just doing it. And I think that in years to come, the need for me to sit here and the guys from Chile and other companies to sit here and talk about web to print will be irrelevant, because it will be as expected within a print business as color management is. It's just it's quite crazy to think that we're in a world now, years down, 20 odd years down, with a mature internet, that we're still dealing with print and printers that don't offer an online system. So I think that if there's anything to take away from today and from the INKISH sessions, it is that now is the time. You cannot afford to wait. A few checklists, I won't read through them all. There's a few things there that are worth bearing in mind if you are reviewing technology, whether they are geographically specific to a country that you live within. I mean, we work internationally. We have an operation in Australasia, out of New Zealand, so we can cater for our clients across the globe. But it might be that possibly you're dealing with someone more locally. Make sure that you're checking that the system has an open technology. There are no agendas in restricting you from linking to web entities, other parts of your portfolio, as in technically. Make sure it's available with browsers forward and back. I've seen so many times systems being unavailable to work because they don't link with another person's technology. Are you dealing with the manufacturer? Are you dealing with a reseller of the manufacturer? Do you have access to the company that produces the product? Because as you mature in these technologies, our experience is that the more grown-up customers find themselves very quickly needing to talk to developers. So again, it's a very, very important factor. You know, the hosting and the GDPR, the security surrounding your data, your client's data. Do you know where it is? Is it secure? Are there documentation to support it so that you can back that up when dealing with a client? Is it internationalized? Even if you're dealing within your locality, you will always find that there will be subcultures living within it that's first language will be another language. So it's always worthwhile doing that. A massive thing that a lot of people don't do. Check the financial viability of the company you're investing in. This is not like buying a press. You buy a press, you can change a press. You buy a web to print system, it's very difficult to suddenly tell your tell your customers that you're moving to another platform because the platform that was in existence is no longer there, or it's moved in a direction you didn't anticipate. So please be aware of these. These are all available, and you're very welcome to contact me or any of the team at Vpress anytime you like if you want to go through these things, because obviously with the rather stilted start that I gave everybody, I'm now rushing through this. But hopefully you can take away that you do need to check. Do not go with what looks pretty or who's smiling at you. Really do your due diligence, because it really can be a problem, even down to Flash-based interfaces that you'll find that aren't now available within certain environments. So really check. So that's me done. Morten, hopefully I didn't ramble too quickly and I covered what you needed me to cover. I'm quite happy to answer questions or go back over any of those slides, but I was just conscious of the time and your agenda that I should rush through. Hopefully that's okay.
I think it was a wonderful presentation, and there hasn't been any questions in the chat so far. I will just turn off your presentation here so I can see you instead.
Okay.
But I do have some questions, because everything you say is, in my opinion, totally correct, right? And didn't show anything from your own solution, but talk more about generic things, which I also...
Yeah. I think the main reason for that, Morten, was I was very aware that I think that some people do death by demo sometimes, and I think that ultimately most people know that web to print, or a system like our web to print, is able to procure pretty much anything from a very complex bit of point of sale to a business card. And I think that we've all seen so many examples of online solutions like Vistaprint and the Moonpigs of the world that, you know, you can order a personalized beer bottle, a birthday card, a box of chocolates. You can have a Coca-Cola bottle with your name on it. I just, after our chat, to avoid giving yet another demonstration of here is a template, it's intelligent, This is where you type. There you select an image. This is how you upload data against it. I think you need to assume that it can be done now. But there are only two restrictions. Have you got enough time? Have you got enough money?
Yeah, but
they're the only restrictions.
Yeah, but it was actually in a positive manner I meant it, because I was thinking that sometimes it's great to have the generic perspectives, and that maybe raises some questions that could be quite interesting, at least I think, because if you look at the web to whatever we call that market, it's a pretty crowded market space. There's a lot of different solutions in the market, and as you said, one thing is of course to choose the right supplier. But before you get to that, I think a lot of printing companies of different sizes, even the bigger ones, sometimes have difficulties finding out what do they really need and what do their customers really demand. So how would you address that before we get into the web to print thing? How would you, or web to whatever, how would you address the need clarification side of it?
Much of what we do, and much of what we've always done, has been very consultative. It's an overused phrase, and we have to take a more holistic view at a printer's environment, rather than trying to kind of crowbar a solution in. And I think that many manufacturers, and I'm not going to blame any manufacturer here because I've been guilty of it myself, but many manufacturers will often be so focused on selling their product into a customer. It will all be feature benefits surrounding that product, build the fizz, make sure it's exciting, and it goes in. And I find we find retrospectively, we tend to go in with a brush and sweep the mess away, tidy it up, and put it back together again. So sometimes we might be in a situation where we lose a sale because someone's gone with price or pretty or whatever, any kind of reason. And then retrospectively, they find that maybe not getting the right levels of service. And when I say service, I don't mean, I don't know where this button is, can someone in the service department help? I'm talking about a client who is maybe really needing some help to qualify a pitch. They might need to complete a large tender document. They might need to have assistance to produce a presentation, deliver a presentation. So we both physically and virtually support customers in qualifying opportunities and delivering opportunities. So it could be that we get on a plane. One of my colleagues got on a plane, flew to Estonia some time back, spent 2 days in Estonia pitching to, I think, about 6 companies. Only 2 were companies that were highlighted as opportunities for our customer, but we went out there to support them. A lot of other times we'll have a salesperson from a company will go in to do a pitch, and they'll just need to have someone available should they need them on the end of a web conference that sits there dormant unless they need it. So a lot of the time, going back to what you said, we spend a lot of our time talking to clients about what their motivations are for buying web to print. Very rarely, and this is sad, very rarely a printer or a print manager will sit there as part of a strategy and say that for our 2020 strategy, we've decided we're going to implement a number of online pieces of technology for procurement. Most of the time, they come to us for 2 reasons. Either they've lost business and they don't want to repeat that experience, or they're about to lose business, or they're in competition with other people that are offering this technology, and they will say, help. And that's what we tend to do. So I just wish the print business would put a plan in place.
But Tim, I'm sorry. It's it's always a pleasure to talk to people that can speak English. That is a burden on me because I can't speak English as well as you do. So maybe I phrased myself wrong.
Okay, or maybe I misunderstood you.
Yeah, but that is the same. No, my question was more like before even entering into a relationship with Vpress or any other web to print supplier. I was just wondering, because if as you said, you have to speculate about what supplier you need to have, because you have to have a long-term relation. You need to have that, right?
Yes.
But you also say that it's about having the right solution for where you want to take your business. And I was more curious about, before you ever get into a relationship with whatever supplier, how do you evaluate? I mean, if I look at INKISH, for example, when we started 6 years ago, we didn't have a clear idea where to go. So if I was supposed to make my investments that we have done today in software and hardware, that would have been totally impossible that time. Yeah. And that's my point, is that when you say that you have to find somebody with a long-term relationship, you also have to think about long-term strategies and where you want to take it. And I'm just wondering, how do you think a printer could get into that,
be very
process
in their decision process? I mean, if you remember, I had one slide with a load of little orange dots.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people don't do enough due diligence. And I think the due diligence isn't about the feature set of the product. I think that the due diligence can be about the company that you're dealing with. A review how they are in terms of in support of the company. Are they able to meet the requirements? I mean, I find for the first, I don't know, 6 to 12 months of a client's relationship, they are very labor intensive on us as a company. And that's not negative, that's just how they are, because they're learning.
It's more like a fact, right?
Yeah. And they're moving into an environment that's not naturally comfortable to them. If you look at the print business and the age and the demographic that sits within it, they're not a natural, Gen Z. We're talking about people like me, that realistically are definitely the wrong side of 50. Well, not you, but I think that the main thing is that we need to make sure that the printers really understand what it is that they want to achieve. And I think sometimes the reason why we help people out so much is because a lot of the time they don't know. They kind of know that they need to do something, but they're not overly clear or even confident on what it is that they actually want to do or what that long-term objective is. Because it's normally reactionary.
So let's assume that you got to that phase where you have one sheet of paper and you have written at least some objectives of where you think your business will go, and now you're going to look for a web-to-print partner. I think that Bernd Zipper and Beyond Print and Zipcon made a website evaluating close to 800 different solutions in Europe.
Scary, isn't it?
So we just start from one end and then spend a couple of years evaluating.
It's a lot of frogs to kiss.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm just wondering because
the sound has gone.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Now, what I was just about to say is that what always concerns me as an editor of INKISH, where we try to be on the printer side, is how we can help the industry to get into the right decisions. I'm not saying that this solution shouldn't be sold or this should not be sold or anything like that. I'm just trying to figure out, because if you have defined your piece of paper, everybody is in for the sales. If you look from the vendor side, so everybody goes, yeah, we're sure we can do that, and we have been here for at least 2 years, so we're also here for 3 years. So I mean, because if you look at because if you look at a printing machine, it's quite obvious that if a vendor A say that it prints 180 sheets per minute, you can just put in and say, oh yeah, it did so, right? So how do you get? Because I think that once I met a person saying to me, I don't care so much about what system it is, as long as I trust the people that I'm working with.
I think instinct on that level is always going to be important. I think that even though we are in a very large a large industry, it's still a small industry, and you will be in a position to start asking about the individuals and the companies that you're likely to get into bed with, proverbially. And so I think that you can do a degree of due diligence on the company. Ask the company to speak to some of their customers, or if you don't want to, or you're suspicious that possibly you're being given access to set up clients, have a look yourself. I mean, we've now got so many customers that it's very difficult for me to really control what reputation we have. Thankfully, I believe it's a good reputation, and it's something. Integrity for us is everything.
But Tim, you will never know, because you're white label. Nobody knows you, so you will never have. You don't have a reputation. That's a problem. Right?
Well, I think among brands, yes, that's quite right. But I think among the print and the print management sector and the office product sector,
don't take me too serious. That was a joke.
I'm very upset.
Yeah, I can see that. Tim Cox, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your preparation for this webinar. I hope, you know, one of the things that struck me when we got in contact with each other, I think it was last week or maybe the week before.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, was actually that you're very obviously very smiling person, and you are very open-minded, and you're also very willing to share your knowledge with people. And I think that is a good starting point for people. If they want to know more, they can reach out to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I for sure hope that at some point we will meet in real person. We have never met in person, so I hope that will be an opportunity to come. And the final thing I would like to say is your Crown Pub.
Yes.
I attended for the first time last week, and that was actually a really, really good experience, except for the Zoom thing.
Yeah, I mean, the platform that came about very quickly, and seriously, absolutely anybody is welcome. There is no format as long as everybody plays well. It's fine. It was to replace the natural networking that we do as a business, and bring everybody to the table, whether they're friends, competitions, peers. It's really just a forum. We'll bring one subject to the table. It's not our subject. This isn't about Vpress or web to print, but it's a nice way of us sharing information out. And you know, at some point, Morten, it might be that you have a conversation with one of my colleagues who run it, which is Milo or Kelvin, get some information from them, and maybe we can bring that in to some of the learning you've got. I mean, it's, you know, this isn't about Vpress owned information or
no, but that was I also like to learn about Vpress, but I like this one because this subject was about, can you sell anything during the corona? Can you what is the financing, what is the risk, credit risks, and does it improve things? I think it's a thing that are truly important to discuss among printers. And I think that the ever recurring question is that what will happen when we get out of this this situation? Because I think that most people are for sure anticipating that the market will be different anyway, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that your initiative with that one, I think there's a lot of good initiatives. Actually, I can tell you that was one of my worries about our Learn With Us session here, because it's like quite dense program for 5 days. And I was just wondering whether people would attend. That was one thing, because there's so many webinars around. And next week, for example, I have been asked to give a speech about why strategies fail with the future marketing phrases network next week, the Future Print virtual seminar summit. And they have like 68 speakers. And I'm just like, that is... I look so much forward to it, but it's just like, it's so dense in the market that we're using now inexpensive ways to communicate and share ideas that maybe it becomes kind of information overload, right?
I think it's important to, I mean, we all have a capacity for learning. You know, you can go on a training course and you're only going to really take on a certain percentage of it. And I think it's the same with this. And I think as long as the information is available retrospective of the event, you can take the time to go on it. More people are listening to podcasts now. You know, all of the pub sessions are available as audio downloads. So if you want to listen to 20, 30, 40 or 50 people talking about a particular subject, it's a good place to go. I mean, Marcus and Fraser at Future have talked about pulling people off the back of their session and pulling them into the pub for an open forum of chat.
That would be cool.
In the same way as you would finish a conference that you'd gone to and then you'd all go to the pub, it's very much the same. So I would welcome, and again, it's really down to my colleagues who run it, Kelvin and Milo, but I'd be more than comfortable having an INKISH pub session where everybody can talk, because I think this is about collaborative approaches to things. And what I'm finding at the moment, well, historically, prior to this, a lot of people were very closed. You get the information that you saw.
You keep it to yourself.
Many places to get it. Now, there's a lot like what you're doing, what the guys at Future are doing, the pub, where people can just come in, access what they want, come in, go. No one feels that they have to be there. If you want to come in for 20 minutes, fine. Yeah. So
I think we have to
welcome collaborating with you guys. I think it'd be great what you're doing.
Yeah. I think we have to invent a new Web 2 title, and that is Web 2 Pines. So basically, we make sure.
Times.
Yeah, so we basically make sure that when we have the virtual bar, like in the week in advance, you can order online the beers, and they pop up with UPS on your doorstep moments before the session takes place. That could be awesome.
Web to booze.
Web to booth, that is even better. Tim, thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry for the stilted start.
That's okay. And I will just kick you out now because I'm waiting for Inki Carlson from Iceland now. So let's see if we can find him. Okay. Take care.
Have a great day, everyone.